This audio aid is to help understand better the as-is representation that we often hear in contracts and which are sometimes misunderstood. So attached here is just a boilerplate contract. In one version or another, all attorneys use something like this. So I just want to illustrate within a boilerplate contract where there are several exceptions to as-is. Okay, so beginning here, where we include all the items that are being sold, the fixtures, the appliances, mailboxes, etc. Sometimes there's an exclusion. Sometimes the seller is not leaving the property in as-is condition. Sometimes they're taking a chandelier, they're taking a second refrigerator, they're taking window treatments. So those are all examples of an exception to the as-is condition. Lower on in paragraph 9, this refers typically to those fence issues that we have when the fence is not laid on the property line where there's an encroachment, and the seller then has to go to the neighbor and get affidavits or agreements signed where the neighbor is essentially acknowledging that they're not making any claims to that property. So again, this is an exception to the as-is language, since it requires our seller to resolve this particular type of issue. This is another exception. Obviously, if there's any violations against the home, it's the seller's responsibility to cure those violations. These are some other just standard representations. We have access to a public road. We have the power and authority to sell. Down here, we have insurable title. So as a seller, we represent that we're going to convey the property clear and free of any title issues. So any judgments, any liens, like I said, violations, all of those need to be sorted out and resolved before we can close. We represent that we have certificates of occupancy for the structure itself, as well as any improvements or alterations that were done. A lot of times you'll know that in the rider we make certain exclusions for less significant items, maybe like retaining walls, porches or patios, things of that nature. But the boilerplate does say that the seller is obligated to provide certificates of occupancy for all structures. And then over here, this is an exception that allows the buyer to know that the seller is going to represent at the time of closing that the plumbing is in working order, the electrical systems are in working order, the heat and air are all in working order, and the roof delivered free of any leaks. So again, this is just to illustrate how the standard contract contains within it a number of exclusions to the as-is language. And it's important that we communicate to clients so that they don't misunderstand. So when they hear as-is, they're not thinking as-is where they don't have to clear any of these issues. Because oftentimes that language, like I mentioned, is sometimes confused by clients, and they need to know that there are built-in exceptions that protect buyers and obligate sellers to act a certain way within the contract. If there's any questions, certainly reach out to my office and I can go into this in more detail. Thank you.